day, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. So this is going to be a new series about typewriter basics aimed toward the beginning typewriter aficionado. And today we're going to talk about something very simple, carriage lock systems. The various ways that manufacturers have figured out how to lock the carriage so you can move your typewriter without endangering the escapement mechanism. And to start off with, if you have one of these big standard size upright typewriters, a lot of them, like this Royal KMM, doesn't have a carriage lock at all. Why is that? They're not intended to be portable. They're intended to be set on a desk and they live there for the rest of their life usually. So this is one of the things you'll find with some typewriters. They don't have carriage locks. But on the other hand, typewriters like this Optima Super have a full carriage lock. It has a carriage lock lever on the left side of the machine. And what that does is moves this lever to engage the carriage itself at this little pin near the end of the carriage bearing race, like that. So there are a number of portable typewriters that have true carriage locks like the Optima Super, and a lot of them have a lever of some kind, either on the side of the carriage or in the case of Olympia is over here in the upper left corner of the keyboard. But these Royal Mercurys made by Silver Seiko in Japan is located up here on the line spacing lever. Here on the line spacing selector, if you move it back behind single line spacing, this lever engages like that and it keeps the carriage from moving any more forward to the right. However, the key question is this a true carriage lock? And the answer is no. It locks the carriage from moving to the right because that lever is hitting the frame and keeping the carriage going any further to the right. But what's keeping the carriage from moving to the left is the escapement is engaged with the rack gear. And if I move the carriage release lever over here, you'll see that I can actually move the carriage to the left, even with this carriage lock engaged. And that's because when you move the carriage release lever, you're pivoting the rack gear out of the way of the escapement. So this is not a true full carriage lock. It's more of a centering device to center the carriage for it to go into its shell case. Another example of a typewriter that does not have a true carriage lock are the 5 Series and 6 Series Smith Coronas. These are otherwise really great machines. They work well, they feel good, they're easy to work on, but they don't have a true carriage lock. Here I've engaged the so-called carriage lock, which is this lever here. You push it up and the carriage will center itself. And what's happening is the centering device is keeping the carriage from moving any further to the left, but it can still move to the right on its own. And once it moves to the right, that centering device releases itself, and now the escapement is holding the carriage in place, which means if it gets a bump to the left, it's going to put stress on the teeth of the escapement. So here I've put the typewriter back into its holiday case. And when you operate the centering lever, it really is intended to center the carriage so that you can close the lid down and have it centered on the both knobs on the carriage. But you can see there is considerable room between the edge of the knob and the inside of the case itself on both sides. And there's enough room there where if you really jarred the typewriter to the side, it would move enough to unlock the carriage, and then if you jarred it the other way, it could actually damage the teeth of the escapement. So these kinds of locking levers are really just centering levers, and they're relying upon the tightness of the lid to protect the carriage and the escapement, but it really doesn't necessarily give that much protection if you really bang it when it's in its case. Another interesting carriage lock mechanism is found on all 3 versions of the Hermes 3000, and it's rather non-standard or non-intuitive. On the Hermes 3000, the carriage lock is this lever on the bottom right side of the carriage, and to release it, you first of all have to be able to move the carriage, and The thing with the Hermes 3000 that's non-intuitive is you would think this lever is the carriage release, but it's not. This is the margin setting for the right margin. The carriage release is the white button here. So what you have to be able to do is you have to be able to push the white button in, and then you have to push down the carriage lock lever to release the carriage. And now the carriage will move like it normally would in the unlocked position by operating the carriage release button. So to lock the carriage on a Hermes 3000, you want to push down the lever, push it to the left until it locks. And it does engage this lever into a notch in the carriage bearing frame, which means this is a positive lock. It will protect the escapement system. Another brand of typewriter that has an interesting carriage lock are the Olivetti Portables. This is the Studio 44. So this carriage locking lever, when you flip it up, this lever raises up and it engages this slot in the bottom of the carriage frame. Like that. And that is a positive lock protecting the escapement. So this was just a small sampling of different typewriter brands. If you go to the Olympia SM series, the medium-sized portables, they have also a positive carriage lock. But in general, your full-size standard upright desktops generally do not have a carriage lock. So when you are carrying those, be careful to not let the carriage move on its own or slam. And by the way, those heavy machines like my KMM I showed you earlier, it's best to carry those with the carriage toward your body, for the center of the weight is more toward you, and then you can nestle the carriage between your arms and keep it from moving if you do have to move it. Most of these portables do have carriage locks of some kind, but half of them or a lot of them don't really have a positive carriage lock. It's more of a centering mechanism like your Smith Corona 5 and 6 series. And in that case, when you are moving those, even if you've engaged the centering mechanism, if you're carrying it outside the case, just be aware it's really not going to protect the escapement. If you happen to bump it one way, releases the lock, and you bump it the other way again, it will stress the teeth of the escapement mechanism. But these machines that have a positive carriage lock are a little bit more secure in the sense that if you do engage that lock, you have less of a chance of damaging the escapement. Well, the escapement is the heart of the typewriter. It's like a clockwork, and you want to protect that when you're moving the machine, and most portables, you do move them, so there is an issue there. Okay, escapements. Carriage locks to protect the escapements. This is a real quick overview. If you have any questions, drop a note down below. I'd love to talk to you about them. And until next time, stay creative and have yourselves a great day. Bye-bye for now.